Hello, Kirby Obsidian here again, and here again to talk about the mass psychosis gripping America. It's just so sad. Is this the America that we really want? Do we really want to be living in a kleptocracy? Do we really want to be living in a country that is intentionally trying to have the rest of the world fear us and on its toes, dreading our next move? Is that really what we want? And if so, that can only be a desire that comes out of fear. It's not a desire that comes out of any type of strength or any type of confidence in what America aspires to be. You know, as a black American, I grew up skeptical about all the grandiose statements about land of the free, home of the brave, because it was clear, particularly in my early years, that there was a determination to keep black people and other non-white people feeling inferior and keeping us powerless. But the other thing I saw through my growing up is that there's this serious aspirational element of America that's pretty impressive and inspired. I often think about the founding fathers. They wrote documents in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution that didn't at all represent the reality that they lived in. And some of them at least must have seen that. We're talking about equality while we own slaves and while we treat women as second-class citizens. So I believe there must have been, at least in some of them, an awareness that what we were laying out as the principles of this country were something that needed to be grown into. And the only way one grows into anything is by recognizing that there's something to grow to. In other words, you're not perfect as you are. There's this whole ridiculous anti-woke movement going on. Now, I've never referred to myself as woke. I don't think of myself as a spokesman for woke, but I love what it represents. The idea of coming awake, putting aside the dreams and looking at the reality and dealing with that. That's how one grows. That's how you progress. That's how things get better. This nonsense about we don't want our kids to learn about slavery because it's going to make them, they're going to feel guilty. No, they're going to have to wrestle with some unpleasant truths, and they'll grow from that, and that will make them proud. It's not something you run away from. There's so much in the ideology of MAGA and of Trump that represents weakness, that represents cowardice, that represents fear, that represents self-delusion. I defy anyone in MAGA to actually explain, to actually look at Donald Trump and justify how you can call him an inspirational leader. Now, I don't have the blessing of biological children. I worked with children much of my life in social work. But if I had kids, and certainly as far as the kids I worked with, I wanted to be a positive example to them, and I wouldn't point to a chronic, constant liar as someone to emulate. Trump lies constantly. He talks about how abused he is when he, in fact, did everything in his power to abuse this country by totally disregarding its will when he was booted out of office. To say, to tell lies like that Ukraine started a war when they were invaded. To say that immigrants are poisoning the blood of America when immigrants give so much to America and they make us a richer, more vibrant, more dynamic country. There are just lies after lies after lies, saying and the actions, the open corruption. I'm going to insert here for a moment. I'm putting a link to a talk by Senator Christopher Murphy, Democrat of Connecticut, who in the Senate recently laid out a calendar, a chronology of corruption over the first 6 weeks of the Trump administration. And he points out that Trump's lies and corruption have become, they're so regular that we hardly notice sometimes. And it has been so out in the open. And it's huge. It's vast. Look at not only the things that are directly empowering Trump and Musk. For example, Verizon had huge contracts with the federal government, which were cut, and contracts to Musk-owned companies, Musk-led companies, were put in their place. The fact that Trump is just selling things directly, he's like a mini mart selling memorabilia. It's disgusting. And I defy any American to be woke. Put aside the self-delusion, put aside the willful ignorance, and to look at what is being done and what is being said and ask yourself, is this an example of strong leadership? Is this an example I want my kids to emulate? Is this the America I want, where the entire Republican Party has been so cowed into submission that they assert none of Congress's powers and just are like lapdogs to the president, allowing him to do whatever he wants to do, foregoing their own morals, their own values, in order to please the strong man? Are those tactics, is the actions of Trump in constantly belittling allies, opposition, anyone he dislikes, anyone he's more powerful than, belittling them, trying to humiliate them? Are those the acts of a strong leader? They strike me pretty obviously as the acts of a coward, of a weak person who cannot face the truth. Wokeness isn't something to be afraid of. It's something to embrace, opening our eyes, seeing the truth, and dealing with it. And if our congressmen and senators are so cowed, are so afraid of what Trump and Musk are going to do to them, that they can't even recognize the truth, that they can't speak the truth, is that the leadership that we want? I don't think so. It's easy to feel powerless these days, but we're not powerless. I praise Bernie Sanders. Thank you so much for being out there, Senator. He's fighting the fight. He's going around the country speaking out against the oligarchy, speaking out against the kleptocracy. We need more of us to do that, and we need to be on our representatives and our senators to be doing the same. Call it out. So what if you're afraid that Musk is going to use his money to unseat you? If you're just going to, if you're just going to cower in submission, well, you deserve to be. You're not worthy of the position that you have. I never intended to be doing this string of political videos. I wanted to be doing videos about my favorite books and my favorite records and movies, and hopefully I'll get to that. But for now, I need to be a part of America that speaks from our conscience, our values, the aspirational part of America. Well, we still have a lot of growing to do. This nonsense about wokeness is just a way to hide from painful truths, but it's painful truths that help us grow, that help us be better. So I hope that you will all be like I'm doing more writing to my congressmen and senators, even though I live in Hamilton, Ontario, but I vote in Seattle, Washington, because that's the way it works. If you're an American citizen living overseas, you vote in the district where you last lived. So I'm writing to Democrats, which I used to not do, figuring, they're kind of doing what I want them to do anyway, but I'm writing them anyway, saying be louder, make more noise. And I'm also writing to the congressman and representative in rural New York, where I have a vacation property and pay taxes. So we need to keep being loud. Let's do what Bernie does. Keep speaking. Don't give up. He hasn't given up. And so thanks for listening, folks.